Massey was right. I have decided that Massey was completely right about the LA fires. Just to let you know, I have switched out everything that I thought I knew, and now I'm fully in the conspiracy theory basket. All this and more on the Self-Evident Podcast.
We're doing.
All right, so welcome to the Self-Evident Podcast. You got Massey, you got Mike.
Is that our names, though?
You'll never know. Da, da, da.
Just know this tinfoil doesn't belong to us. It belongs to Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum, because we'll never own anything, and we'll be happy about it.
We actually rent the tinfoil hats from him.
Yeah, and you can get yours right now on theselfevidenttruth.com if you want to join us on our conspiracy carrying.
We custom make tinfoil hats just for you. For those of you listening, we are wearing the latest, the greatest version of the Self-Evident tinfoil
hats.
You can get yours for $299.95.
And this is the reason you need to subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and stuff.
Because
we have fun. And today was one of those days. Mike actually this morning we were talking, and we were kind of going to cover this anyways. What the title is, the LA 2.0, and why these guys are moving to more vision instead of actually dealing with the problems at hand. And so he goes, "I think I'm moving more to your side." And I was like, "That's it, dude. I'm finally going to wear a tinfoil hat on the podcast."
And it looks great on you,
Thank you,
bro.
man. I appreciate it.
It's so nice. All right. Yes. I'm starting to wonder if maybe these LA fires aren't exactly just a natural disaster that just so happens to coincide with some movements the government's trying to make and some things that are going on all in time for the 2028 Olympics.
You know, it's so funny. You and I were talking about this, and I just want us all to think, right?
Well, at least your brainwaves are protected now because the hat.
Yeah, my phone doesn't even work right now because I got so much tinfoil on my head. But I want us all to think for a moment. Gavin Newsom didn't even give it a week, and he was already talking about LA 2.0. They're already talking about the 15-minute cities. They're already talking about all these things and these plans they have. How in the heck did they draw that up so fast? Was the night of the fire, someone was just in their basement going, I'm going to draw up some plans for a brand new LA.
Just in case something happens to certain sections of LA, I'm going to have a fully fledged plan ready for it.
Specific sections, such as the Pacific Palisades, that will be near the Olympics.
Yeah.
Courses and things that need to be done there.
So according to Grok, Twitter's AI, Palisade Fire indeed come close to and affect. I asked it. I was like, let's see what it says. Indeed come close to and affected areas that are slated to host the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. Specifically, the fire has impacted or threatened the following: Riviera Country Club, which is designated to host the Olympic golf tournament, located within the Palisade Fire evacuation zone, being only about 5 miles from the fire. It's raised concerns about its readiness for the games. UCLA, which is set to serve as the Olympic Village, has not been directly damaged, but has been under evacuation warnings due to the proximity of the fire. Now, here's the question on that. You may say, well, see, it's not affecting those areas, but it's affecting everything around it. Man. It's affecting this whole area and how the landscape can change when you've burned out a bunch of people's homes.
These hats are starting to make more sense.
Don't they?
They're just starting to make more sense to me.
Yeah, I'm starting to believe that, Uncle Jimmy, who said that the government's been coming after him for 20 years, he might be onto something.
Because
I got 20 years of dry food in my basement. I got 4,000 rounds of ammunition. I got 14 aluminum foil hats. I'm ready. Uncle Jimmy, lay off the sauce. Nope, spiked. Government.
The reason is because these aren't conspiracy theories. I'm actually doing this as a satire. These aren't conspiracy theories. Governments have done this for millennia. They attack their own people. They do these things. Read about Hitler's governments. You know what I mean? How do wars start? Like a lot of us question what happened in September 11th of 2001, not what happened necessarily, which many of us do, but the effects of what happened. Were we really fighting a war on terror? What was that all about? Right? The economic crash in 2008. All it did was set up more government. You're not a conspiracy theorist when you see things. COVID. They didn't talk about how it was just all deaths. They talked about how to strip your rights and how evil you were.
And they war gamed it a couple of months before it actually happened.
That's exactly right. And they were talking about, just listening to this Klaus Schwab, right? He's talking about how the COVID pandemic will be just as bad as the next cyber attack. How the flip do you know? You know what I mean? So like all these other things, you got to start thinking with your head. You can't put evil past people. People are evil, and there's divisiveness. And again, this is why I hold so true to Psalm 2. When he says that the kings of the earth devise against the Lord and his anointed. They're setting themselves against, and he's laughing at him. It's like, dude, my people aren't stupid. You know what I mean? We're going to see through this stuff. Now, what we want to do is obviously give some humor and some hope, right? And there's a lot that's going to happen. We're going to kind of fill you in on through some of this stuff. He just read what Grok just said about Olympic Village and all that other stuff. But you also brought up a point this morning, and I heard about it, but I didn't really study it or see it when he talked about the Marshall Plan.
Yeah. And the Marshall Plan, so this was the plan to rebuild Europe after World War II using government and private cooperation, right? So it was a very government-invested project, especially the Allies saw the opportunity in devastated Europe, especially Germany, of, hey, how can we rebuild this for us to bring back economic order and all of that and grow this? Now, when Mr. Newsom himself was being interviewed, he brings up the Marshall Plan. I think it's so interesting because he brings it up. The guy asks him about it, and he quick skips over it, keeps going.
Did you load that?
I've got the video.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So let's go ahead.
Because you said you loaded it, but I didn't really hear that part that you got it up. Something like that. I was like, he said something. I was like, I didn't even hear that.
When I talk, he half listens.
Because the brain waves aren't getting through it. The list, you know what I mean? No interference, buddy.
There's definitely no interference with those brain waves right now.
Are there any brain waves right now?
In spirit, we're going from not just hosting those three iconic games and venues, but also the opportunity, I think, to rebuild at the same time. And that's why we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team of looking and reimagining LA 2.
All right, so we're going to pause. We're going to pause right there.
Marshall Plan.
The Marshall Plan. We're already organizing the Marshall Plan. And it's not necessarily that he has a Marshall Plan written down with that title on his desk. He's referencing the Marshall Plan, this idea of government cooperation.
Yeah, government.
Let's be nice.
Government inferment, infusion.
Spirit that comes from not just hosting those three iconic games and venues, but also the opportunity, I think, to rebuild at the same time. And that's why we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team of looking and reimagining LA 2.0. And we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
You just said you're organizing a Marshall Plan for the rebuilding of California. What is that Marshall Plan? Tell us about this Marshall Plan.
We're just starting to lay out. I mean, we're still fighting these fire.
Did you see that?
Just ducked it.
Oh, we're still fighting fires. Let's not talk about that whole Marshall Plan thing. Like the interviewer flat out, you just mentioned Marshall Plan. What do you mean by this?
And if you know,
fires.
The word marshal and government are synonymous with government doing something that is takeover. Martial law. Right? This happened in Boston after the Boston bombing. Remember that with the race, the runners? I forget his name. All of a sudden, you see tanks going up and down the streets. Minneapolis did this during COVID a little bit, locking down people, pointing at people in their houses. Stay in the house. You know, there's something to be said about when we say we're going to implement a Marshall Plan.
Just to point out, they're spelled different.
I know. What I'm saying is that word makes people, you know what I mean?
It connects.
Yes.
The word is charged.
Right. The Marshall I'm talking about is Martial. this is a Marshall Plan, MASH, but just that word will start getting people going, what is going on here? Do you know what I mean?
We're already talking to city leaders. We're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to business leaders and nonprofits. We're talking to labor leaders. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy for recovery, how we can organize the region, how we can make sure that we are seeking federal assistance for the Olympics more broadly, but also federal assistance for the recovery efforts, and how we can galvanize the community with folks that love this community to really develop a mindset so that at scale we're dealing with the scope of this tragedy and responding to it at scale with efficiency, like the executive order I talked about, time value of delivering projects, addressing building codes, addressing permitting issues, and moving forward to
freaking guy.
Dude, listen, changing government.
Yeah.
But he sounds a lot like Kamala.
Dude, he's and
the significance of the passage of time. Okay? There's something to the significance of the passage of time.
Time passes.
Time passes, and it's significant when you think about the significance of time and its passage.
Space is up there.
This cloud that's up here.
Where's my wine?
Someone move my my water bottle. So listen, he just said it. They're gonna go ahead.
I before we get into what he actually said, this guy is so well rehearsed.
Oh, dude.
Now, audio listeners, you didn't get a chance on this, but viewers, if I went back, what you might notice is every single point he makes has a hand gesture to it. We're going out into the community and we're going to get information back and we're all going to talk. He's so well rehearsed. And this is where like people are like, if he ran for president, he would get shellacked. I don't think so. I think a lot of the people who aren't in tune with politics, and we were talking about this morning, you say California's a dumpster fire. All they have to say is, well, the 6th largest economy in the world. They'll just plaster that all over. They'll plaster all over all of the Silicon Valley stuff and all of that. And look at Newsom. Look how well he's done. And he's well-spoken. He's rehearsed. He's slick. And he knows how to convey what he's feeling to everybody.
And a lot of people don't know like body language and how manipulative body language can be and how you communicate and why hand gestures like this create and excite and how your voice inflects. And even when you're saying something and you're not saying anything, if you sound excited about it and the way you're, everybody's like,
precisely,
the future. Yeah. And they're like, what did he say? I don't know, but we're doing something about the future, right? So like you get excited about, but here's my problem is he's talking about LA 2.0. And I just said this at the beginning. He's talking about redeveloping. He's talking about the all this other stuff. Not one time did he say, man, I met with family after family after family that have lost, and we need to grieve with them right now. Can we just, if you're a praying person, pray. If you're a thought person, think. But like, we need help here because our people are devastated. Nothing. It's about rebuilding. That's where my mind, again, when COVID popped, I remember when COVID came out and they said, we're going to shut down everything. Remember you and I, the first thing we said was, this is illegal. And look what he just said. I signed executive orders. We're going to reconstruct how we do building codes, how we do it's all a redoing of government.
And that's
every time.
Isn't it funny that for so long, building codes, environmental regulations, all of the bureaucratic red tape that takes people years to get anything done is like, oh,
in a disaster.
We'll get through that because we've got a disaster. So we're going to get through all of that. We're going to put all of that aside.
Who needs
basically.
Congress?
Yeah.
Who needs Congress when the King of California can just stroke a pen?
I think this is the perfect time for you to read
what
we've been talking about. So pay attention to the wording in this because, all right, let me set this up. I'll set this up. Yes, it is time to don the hat. I'm going to set this up because Massey was reading this to me in the car on the way here. I was like, it makes sense. So this morning, I was saying, I would not be surprised if, picture this, how this runs out. And this is Mike's Conspiracy Theory Corner. You've got a bunch of land that is devastated. People's homes are destroyed. And you may think, well, the government can't just come in and take that, right? They own it. Let's put in a couple of things that the government could do if, say, they wanted that land. One, they could come in and declare that it's a hazardous area.
And we need to do something about it to keep the people safe.
Exactly. We have to keep you safe because this could be a hazardous area. Second, eminent domain requires that the value, the reasonable value is given or compensated to the person when the government takes the land. What if they appraise the land and say, well, this is hazardous and this is a devastated land. There's no house on this property, so we'll give you $10,000.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, the value that the government has to spend on it is really, really small, right? And the government can say, well, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to get through all the red tape just to clear your house, your burned out house off the property, which you said Jillian Michaels was complaining about. Like, when my house burned down the last time, it took me over a year just to clear the stuff out.
Just to get the permit to clean up.
Right. So you have a bunch of people who are facing down the government and regulation and red tape and bureaucratic nightmare, and all of a sudden the government slides up next to him and goes, look, I know you're going to spend 3 to 5 years to try and rebuild your house, and you're not going to get any of the value out of it.
Right.
But we've got a deal for you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give you some money. We'll take care of it. You're going to have to find another place to live.
Right.
How easy that idea is.
I'm sure they'll probably like, hey, write off your property because it was damaged.
Yep.
You'll get some insurance money, and we'll pay you for this too.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And so all of a sudden, massive incentive for the landowner, we can't even say homeowner at this point, the landowner to sell the land to the government or private interests. The eminent domain the government's action doesn't even require eminent domain because what they can tell the land developers is, don't worry, these people will sell to you. And then all of a sudden, the land developer slides up next to the landowner and says, look, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years just to get your house cleared off and start to rebuild. You're never going to make your money back, but let me pay you $20,000, even though your land's only worth $10,000.
Right.
And I'll buy it from you, and you go find your other place. You got some insurance money coming. How many people are going to make that deal? And then the government turns around to the developer and goes, don't worry about any of that bureaucratic mess. I got that covered because we need to rebuild right now. Zoning has actually changed in certain areas. They quickly rezoned it from single-family homes to multifamily homes. Isn't that convenient?
Well, let's put on our tinfoil hats here real quick and set this up. The Smart LA 2028 launched in 2020. That initiative, right, launched in 2020. Smart cities are multifaceted and made up of several components, not just IT infrastructure. Smart cities are evolving, which requires both near and long-term goals that adhere to an overarching set of smart city values. Number 3, smart cities require collaboration where government and non-government entities work together to deliver the best in-class services to the public. What does that mean? Let's see. 4, smart cities require local resident and business participation, especially in light of major social movements such as protests for racial justice, digital divide, and social impacts from COVID-19.
This was written in 2020.
This was written in 2020. Smart city. Listen, it was written in 2020 during a pandemic.
Yep.
Okay. Last one. Smart cities don't happen by accident. They require careful strategic planning, strategic planning and investment to become intelligent urban ecosystems designed for the humans that live there. Okay? All of these plans were written in 2020 to be done by 2028. How are they going to do that? How are you going to do that? Guys, there's a Costco going up over here, and they just broke ground, December maybe?
Yeah.
It's going to be done by April. A giant structure like that, just going up. How long is it going to take to build these little cities? Not that long, not before 2028. They'll get people to come in. They'll get,
Especially if the government has incentive to wipe away any red tape and bureaucratic nightmare.
100%.
Right.
And there's no trace, right? So let's talk about what California can do constitutionally, right? Obviously, the 14th Amendment plays a huge part in what the federal government does with the states' rights, eminent domain, all that stuff. But this is Article 1, Section 19 of the California Constitution. I want you to follow with me word for word.
So closely to what this says, and we'll give summary, but this is, when he read it to me, I was like, there it is. Anyways, Massey.
Here it is. Section A. Section 19, subsection A. Private property may be taken or damaged for private property may be taken or damaged for a public use, and only when just compensation ascertained by a jury, unless waived, has been first paid to or into court for the owner.
So, just compensation. Think about this. You had $1 million house on your property. $1 million house burns down. You had, say, lithium-ion batteries on there, and there's some chemicals that have seeped into the soil. Now, all of a sudden, not only is the house not on the land is a hazard zone because of certain chemicals that they found, trace chemicals in the soil, and it's a burned out mess that has to get cleaned out.
And it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands to get all that out.
And so the value that we can really offer you is probably about $5,000. How easy an argument the government can make of, look, this isn't worth anything. This is going to take a lot of time and money for us to clean up. So therefore, property that was worth $1.5 million, it's worth about $5.
Yeah.
Continue.
Part 2. The legislature may provide for possession by the condemner following commencement of eminent domain proceedings upon deposit in court and prompt release to the owner of money determined by the court to the probable amount of just compensation. In other words, legislature has the right to work around it, do the thing. Part B. The state and local governments are prohibited from acquiring by eminent domain an owner-occupied residence for the purpose of giving it or conveying it to a private person.
Wait. That just caught me. Owner-occupied. None of these properties are owner-occupied anymore.
Bingo. Okay? Just go with us. You don't have to believe what we're saying. I'm just throwing this out there so you can do your own homework, right? Because that's what good conspiracy theorists do. Here's subsection C. Subdivision of B. Right? They can't take land to give to another private property or private owner or private entity, okay? Subdivision of B of this section does not apply when state or local government exercises the power of eminent domain for the purpose of protecting public health and safety, preventing serious repeated criminal activity, homeless, anyone? Riots, anyone? Responding to an emergency, which happened, or remedying environmental contamination that poses a threat to public health and safety.
How many of these sites are going to be considered environmental dangers, especially in California's bureaucratic climate nightmare?
Duh. Everything over there is an environmental hazard. The smoke's an environmental hazard, right?
But poop isn't.
Poop's not. Nope. Especially on the streets, and then a bunch of needles too.
Yeah, no, it's
cool.
Fair.
We're good. Here's part D, subsection D. Another subdivision of section B of this section does not apply when state or local government exercises power of eminent domain for the purpose of acquiring private property for a public work or improvement. I'm sorry, what was it called again? Smart LA 2028. That's the public good.
Yeah, we're doing this for you guys, for you, for the public, for the citizen. Roll with it.
And then for the purpose of this section, they actually define what some of these terms are, but they don't define eminent domain. They don't define just compensation. They don't define any of these things. They define what they think local government means or conveyance. What the word conveyance means, a transfer of real property, whether by sale, lease, gift, or franchise or otherwise. They can take that property because it's conveyance. They'll just take that. If it doesn't matter if it's given to you, bought to you, whatever, they can take. Local government means any city. Listen to this. Local governments can do all of this. Local government means any city, including charter city, county, city and county, school district, special district, authority, regional entity. Authority. What the flip does that? Just the word authority. Regional. Anybody can call themselves authority. Regional entity, redevelopment agency, or any other political subdivision within the state. It's so open-ended. Like, what does that mean?
This is blank check.
Oh my gosh.
Right
Here. Number 3. So all those laws about protecting doesn't protect nothing.
No.
Right?
It gives them the authority and the reason to take your land.
Number 3, what does owner-occupied residence mean in subsection B? Means real property that is improved with a single-family residence such as a detached home, condominium, or townhouse, and that is the owner or owner's principal place of residence for at least 1 year prior to the state or local government's initial written offer to purchase the property.
How many of those properties don't have houses on them anymore?
Right. Owner-occupied residence also includes residential dwelling unit attached or to detached from a single-family residence. In that area, I'm sure guest houses are pretty popular, so that's what they're talking about. Number 4, person means any individual or association. Listen to this. Persons means any individual or association or any business entity. Businesses are now persons, including but not limited to partnership, corporation, or limited liability company. Wow. There's no protection for the private property owner.
This flat out spells out that you have no protection. We're going to screw you.
Let's see. Lastly, public work or improvement means facilities. Listen to this, because it talked about for the purpose of public improvement or public work means facilities or infrastructure for the delivery of public services such as education, police, fire protection, which they suck at, parks, recreation, emergency medical, public health, which they don't care about, libraries, flood protection. They don't have any water. Streets or highways, public transit, which sucks, railroads, airports. Railroads don't even do railroads there. I don't even know. I could be wrong.
That they've been trying to do this high-speed rail for years, and it's been billions and billions of dollars, and
it goes nowhere. Kind of like what we have here in Brightline. Okay, let's continue. Airports, seaports, utility, common carrier, or any similar projects such as energy-related, communication-related, water-related, and wastewater-related facilities or infrastructure projects. Listen to this, another section. Projects identified by a state or local government for recovery from natural disasters and private uses incidental to or necessary for the public work or improvement. What is public work? It didn't really define what public work is, except these agencies.
Yeah.
What that means.
Of course, those different departments and sectors are all talked about in the Smart City 2028 vision. Wastewater, traffic, electricity. In this whole thing, we want houses wired with smart sensors to help people control their electrical use. Oh, you mean like the brownouts where you were required to not charge your car because, it would use the grid.
I just want you guys to read with me section 20. I don't know if my camera would pick it up if I blew it up. Maybe like this. If I do that. And I do this. I just want to do this so you guys can see it for yourselves. This is great.
Can you screenshot it? Send it to me?
It won't upload. I've tried it before when it's live. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but so next I just read to you, private property is not even private property. There's no protection, right? I just want you to here's section 20. Non-citizens have the same property rights as citizens. None.
Just in case you get upset about all those illegal immigrants, they're in the same boat you are.
Yeah.
They've got no private property either.
They sure sold them a bill of goods, though, before they came. And again, people can call us, what do you want to say, conspiracy theorists, and these guys aren't running by fact. All I know is, and this is not a tip of the hat, I'm actually frustrated about this. I'm actually frustrated about talking to you about this, too. When COVID came out, I remember people were like, come on, man, you're going a little far. Turns out a lot of this was right. And many who did do that, it's like, okay, we saw where we were talking about government being illegal and what they're doing. Nobody even questioned what government was saying in the first year. They weren't doing that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a lot of people fell for the lie of the vaccine and all these other things. And if you did, no condemnation. I get it. A lot of people did it. Some people did it for work because they didn't know what to do. And again, I get it. No condemnation. It's not a sin. I'm not saying you sinned or anything like that. But we believe what we're told.
You only just took the mark of the beast, that's all.
Jeez. I wasn't going to go there, but... And I think, too, watching all this, what they're talking about here, you can see private property has no limit, right? They can just take it. It only goes to show you the narcissism of Gavin Newsom and how he came out, even just within a week, and saying, we're going to rebuild L.A. Not even caring. Dude, talking to pastors out in North Carolina, and they're talking about the devastation, but the beauty and the love that's coming around that community and how much we've been giving and all these other things. And that's amazing. Over here, what's his name? I mean, it is complete, almost kind of sociopathic how he can turn this whole thing into, look what's going to happen for California, though. And it's like people are literally without homes now.
I'm convinced the guy is on that
spectrum.
Range of like sociopathic, like
it's disgusting.
And how easily he twisted to, we're just concerned about the fires right now, because he saw himself almost get put into a pinch point of his plans. And you don't get the sense that this guy has any concern about what's going on in people's lives. Unless we forget, during the height of COVID and all of that, people need to be locked down. He's sitting out at a French restaurant called Laundry, hanging out and there seems to be no remorse. This whole situation, it's like, I tried to come into it. I'm not saying I'm like, it's all conspiracy, it's all true, but I tried to come at it. Let's be aware of what's going on here. And yet you put 2 and 2 together, and it's like, at some point you can't help but argue, yeah, government is about to just nail these people and take their property or hand it off to developers, because they've already been talking about, and you heard Newsom in that, we're getting together with leaders of every area and private business owners, and you mean the developers that are going to build the apartment complexes that you want and redesign this area into smart city. At some point you go, like, I've honestly, he and I were on our way here, and it's like, whatever, it's all gonna burn.
Yeah, we're like in the camp of, it just gets sickening talking about these things, and we try to go out and preach truth. People are still on the bandwagon of the big machine, Republican, Democrat thing. We were listening to a podcast this morning. I won't tell the name because I don't want to insult.
It's not their fault.
I don't want to insult it.
Yeah,
but they're arguing with people who have no common sense, and it's almost like clickbait in a sense. Like, we're arguing with someone who doesn't even know how to argue properly or to even think properly. And there's some big time liberal, on this conservative show. And I'm listening to it going, I'm like the guys licking ice cream, watching 2 kids fight in a schoolyard. Like, this is stupid. You know what I mean? And so we get to the point, at least I do, of stopping. It's like, there's no point, right? But I find it funny when people who own businesses, they get to that point, they don't stop. They hit the gas. When sports, when it gets difficult and you want to honor and glorify God, you don't say, I'm going to stop then. No, you typically hit the gas until your body can't go anymore. And it's got to be the same thing with liberty. You know what I mean? Most people want to do Christian, non-Christian, all those other things. I think the Christian exists to make sure people have liberty, to be able to live, to be able to make the choices that seem necessary for them. Even ones I don't agree with, which then again brings the power of God. We just did a show with about Allie Beth Stuckey and Shane Winnings and this whole thing about anointing oil. And I didn't know about Allie Beth, really. I don't really follow her. I guess she's a cessationist in a sense. I think she believes in that kind of thing. And we weren't trying to defend her. We were saying, I trust more Christ than just the anointing oil. And I use anointing oil. I have anointing oil. But even the responses we got, it was like so far left or right. It's like, your guys are, oil was used. We said that in the podcast. Like, we know what that means. I'm saying I don't trust me or my methods. I trust faith. The prayer of faith heals the sick, not the anointing oil. The anointing oil was used as a symbol, just like baptism is a symbol. Does the baptism save you? No. Christ saves me. Baptism is a symbol. The eating of the communion is a symbol. That doesn't save me. It doesn't make me closer to Jesus. As a matter of fact, if you have sin in your life, willful sin in your life, you're not supposed to take communion. How many of us willfully sin and we're out there anointing ourselves to go pray for people? You yourself can't even regulate yourself. You know what I mean? That's what we were talking about. And still, people do this divisive, like they're just tribalistic. And you're just like, sometimes I'm sick of it. Just let me run a business, Lord, minister in my business, and go home and preach the gospel wherever I can. And then you realize, like, no, we may be sometimes I feel like the voice that's alone. Not a lone voice, but alone. Like, we just aren't in the same vein as everybody else.
It feels that way so often. It's
yeah.
Like, is this thing on? Are we the only ones? Yet.
But you keep going because it's not about you. So for all of us who are seeking truth and all those other things, we're preaching the gospel and we know what we're saying. Only you know in your heart what is right before God. God's given us all a specific thing. I'm not a hype guy. I don't really like hype. I just see what I see, and I know what I see. When God sends us into the impossible camp of let's go help reform a nation, that's impossible to do. If marriages are struggling, it's impossible to fix those marriages in your own strength. God has to perform miracles, and I'm in that business of a miracle-working God. I am. Because I've seen him do so many things, including in my life. My wife shared a little clip of the testimonies that I did and you did, I think, I think yours is next, but you remember when we did that podcast years ago? We talked about our testimonies, and I remember just going through that whole story. I just shared a clip, and I'm like, gosh, Lord, you really took me from nothing, from a pit, and you saved my life. You know what I mean? That's a miracle, dude. Just that alone is worthy of praise. And I think here, when we're talking about these things, it's not about getting down about what's happening. It's about, Lord, what is my role in playing here? How do I get on these things to say, no, government, we're not doing that? How do I get on the city councils and those other things to say, no, we're not doing that? You're overstepping your bounds. This has nothing to do with government and improvement. It's everything to do with your power and an ego check. And the fact that he even says executive orders changing things, you're not a king, dog. Like who's had the guts to say that to Newsom? You know, just like what's his name up in freaking Trudeau. Like nobody ever like stands up and says something to the guy, right? I'm gonna go a step further. President Trump, has anyone ever just said to him, "Bro, you really need to get off your high horse. You got to quit talking like that, dog." Yeah, some things are valid. I get it. You can get pissed, but like when you're out there talking nonsense and throwing your weight around, you got to shut up. Who's ever like said that? That's not disrespect. That's loving the guy.
Yeah. It sounds like there, at least this time around, there have been some people who have started to say that. And it needs to happen. And I think about Trudeau, and I think Polivier, is that how you say his name? Like, Polivier has done a good job. Part of the problem is these people insulate themselves really well against true wise counsel that's going to contradict what they have to say. Yeah, so there is that aspect of you've got a press of, hey, what has the Lord opened up for you to do in these situations? I think the frustration comes out in us because this constitutional amendment for the state of California basically gives them free reign and blank check. And that is really frustrating that the people allow that stuff to happen because they don't know. They don't know that government would do that. Or they blindly close their eyes because I'm not going to pay attention to that, whatever. You know, amendment for eminent domain. Okay, yeah, sure. And then you end up facing down the barrel of a gun because the state government's going, oh, well, look right here. This is an emergency, environmental emergency. So we get your land. And all of a sudden, the whole train continues to move forward. But anyway,
I mean,
get a tinfoil hat.
You can purchase one of these at your local Walgreens. Make it yourself. But we thought about we should sell these. Guys, go to theselfevidenttruth.com. Become a donor or a sponsor. Or if you guys have any podcast topic ideas, we'd love to take those. We love talking about things that people won't probably talk about or afraid to. But we also like talking about theology a lot too and just what we see out there. So keep listening, guys. And again, if you have any criticism of what we're doing, great. Please do that. Let us know. And we would love to talk about it. Again, keep praying, keep doing what you're doing for us. We have a lot to cover right now. As far as just what's going on in Self-Evident, it's awesome, but it's going to take a lot of work. And so we have a surprise. Our book is finished. I'm resubmitting the artwork to it. It's live right now, so if you buy it now, it will come with the old artwork, and it's kind of pixelated. I don't know what happened there, but we're resubmitting the artwork to Amazon, which is exciting. And so that book is done, and it's called Church Liberated, so it's really exciting. Carrie wants to post it this week. And guys, thank you so much again for supporting us. And please, if you haven't become a partner, do it. We're out there doing what we need to do to save souls. That's what this is about. Knowledge comes after the salvation of souls. So then we disciple people. That's what it's about, is discipling. We have a lot going on. Mike is also doing a lot with his ministry, Forged, and we appreciate all of your prayers and support for that and all those things. So, guys, God bless you. We will see you this Monday.